We're live, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mark, and welcome everyone to this Education and Social Services Scrutiny meeting on the 27th of January 2026. Croeso pawb, welcome to everybody. So this meeting will be live streamed and the recordings made available to view via the Council's website, except for discussions involving confidential or exempt items. Therefore, the images, audio of those individuals speaking will be publicly available to all via the recordings on the Council's website at www.caerphilly.gov.uk. And if I could just go to agenda item 1 to receive apologies. Mark, can you confirm if we have any other apologies coming in other than those already passed to committee services?
No further apologies, Chair.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, we'll go to agenda item 2, declarations of interest. Councillors and officers are reminded of their personal responsibility to declare any personal and/or prejudicial interest in respect of any item of business on this agenda, in accordance with the Local Government Act 2000, the Council's Constitution, and the Code of Conduct for both councillors and officers. Can I ask Mark, are there any declarations?
No hands raised, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, so we will press on to agenda item 3 to approve and sign the following minutes of the Education and Social Services Scrutiny Committee held on the 25th of November 2025. We go from page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Chair, can I just, I had one query on the minutes. That's in relation to the issue on safeguarding, item 8, and it was queried whether the local authority developed a local anti-racism action plan following the Gwent Safeguarding Board's report. Members advised that both local and regional plans have been developed and would be shared with members following the meeting. Apologies if I've missed it somewhere, but I don't recall having sort of received that. Whether it just went to councillors, I'm not sure. I don't need clarification now, but if somebody can sort of maybe check on that, and if it hasn't gone out, could it be sent?
Yes, certainly. Could somebody check on that for Mr. Bassina, please?
Yeah, Chair, I'll check on that outside of the meeting.
Thank you. So if we could go to the, ask for a mover of the motion, please, to accept the minutes.
I'll move.
Thank you. And seconder?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Marina. And if we can go to the vote, please.
That's carried, Chair, with one verbal vote in the chamber. That's 15 votes, 16 votes for, and no votes against, 2 abstentions.
Thank you very much, Mark. Okay, we'll move on to agenda item 4, considering any matter referred to this committee in accordance with the call-in procedure. Mark, I noticed there, has there been any matter referred to us?
No call-ins for this meeting, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, agenda item 5, a forward work programme. Mark, if I could hand over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Members are asked to review the forward work programme for the Education and Social Services Scrutiny Committee alongside the Cabinet Forward Work Programme in their packs and suggest any additions or amendments within the criteria set out in Appendix 3. The next meeting for this committee will be on the 10th of March. And as you can see from your packs and from the forward work programme, on that meeting we have a not in education, employment or training update, education otherwise than at school update, schools causing concern update, a Q3 revenue budget monitoring report, and also as an information item, the Children's Services Assurance Check letter. So if members are happy, I'd like to seek approval to publish the forward work programme with any amendments in the next few minutes of the meeting, if there are any, onto the council's website. Thank you, Chair.
Well, we'll take Councillor Roberts first, please.
Diolch, Chair. Thank you. Looking at the forward work plan, I was wondering if we might be able to, sometime in the future, not for immediate, but sometime in the future, I was wondering if we could have an item. Tonight, one of the things that we're looking at and discussing will be things to do with the Welsh language. And whilst I was reading that report, I came across what I thought was interesting, where there's a comment about our youth service and how the youth service have adopted, developed and embedded Cynefin. So I know we get the youth service every so often with their 3 options of interest, with the main one taken on to council, which is of value, and I much enjoy lots of that presentation. But I wouldn't mind getting something different from the youth service on top sometime, not for now. And when I came across how the youth service have adopted, developed and embedded Cynefin towards the Welsh language, I wouldn't mind a short presentation from the youth service and the youth service department showing us how that they've developed and they're embedding towards Cynefin, please. I think it's important. I think we all need to understand our belonging. Nothing wrong with who we are and where we're from, and we should be proud of it. I was glad to hear that the youth service have developed and that embedding it, and I'd like us to tell it. I'd like them to tell us how they're doing it. Thank you.
I think that's a wonderful idea. I certainly quite fancied asking them to come along as well, John. So I'm sure that can be arranged at some point, and an invitation can go out to them and ask them to come and give us a presentation on Cynefin. Thank you.
The cabinet member would just like to come in, Chair.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. Both. It's I've obviously in my one-to-one meetings with Paul O'Neill and Claire Ewins, they've explained to me about how they've embedded this in the youth programme, and I think it would be an excellent idea for them to come and give a presentation, so I'll pass that on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carol. Thank you.
Thank you all. Diolch yn fawr.
Councillor Marina Shatton-Dawson, please.
Thanks. I'm in the last meeting I mentioned an idea to go on the forward work programme, and I just wondered, is there anything being thought of about that? Because they said they were going to see if it would be put on there, and I've not heard anything about it. So does anybody know anything about it?
Can you refresh our memories, please?
It was to do with teacher mental health, well-being, not mental health, but it's the same difference, and pupil engagement.
Yeah, that's still on the date to be confirmed section in the draft forward work programme, Councillor Chacon-Dawson. So it is still on the list, but there hasn't been a date allocated for that yet.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I also would like to put something on the forward work programme as well, please. Could we have an update on the present function of the Gwent Frailty project with perhaps a historical overview of its original purpose and how well it has fulfilled its purpose over the years? It started in approximately 2002, I believe. So I think that would be very useful.
The director would like to come in on that, Chair.
Yeah, I was
Thank you.
just going to come in, Chair, and just say, yes, that's fine. We can arrange for that.
Smashing. Thank you very much indeed. Okay. Can I ask for Councillor Elizabeth Davis, please? You're on mute at the moment.
So I don't usually come in, so I'm not used to this. As we're able to ask people to come in and speak to us as a group, could we possibly ask someone from the AL, Additional Learning Needs Group Department, to come in and explain to us where we are at the moment with that? Because as a county, we have huge ALN needs. I'd like to know where we stand and how we're managing to finance it, because it's a big issue at the moment, isn't it? Or not at the moment, it is a big issue. So could I put forward that as something in the forward planning?
Kerry Cole would like to come in. So Kerry?
Yeah, just wondering, I'd welcome the opportunity to share more around that. It's a big topic area.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, Councillor Davis, if you're heading towards like a seminar, or where we could have some head teachers in to bring it to life a little bit.
And find out what they really need. You know, find out if we're providing what they need and know what they need as well.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering, rather than a report.
Yes, I know I don't particularly want to report it, like, conversation around it.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah, it's fine with me.
Good.
That's lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kerry.
Thank you.
Councillor Shacon Dawson, you have your hand still raised. Councillor Shacon Dawson, did you want to come in again?
It looks as if she's
it appears that she's frozen. So
yeah.
Okay, so let's go on to the vote then. Can we move that forward work programme? Have I a mover?
I move.
Thank you. And a seconder?
I'll second.
Yeah, second, Chair.
3 seconders.
Thank you so much. And we're going to the vote now on Teams. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. And agenda item 6, to receive and consider the following cabinet reports. Number 1 was the development of special additional learning provision for children with additional learning needs, and that was on the 10th of December 25. And the second report was the additional support delegation, 10th December 25 also, and of course the draft budget proposals 26-27. Can I ask a question on this for myself, please? I know that we've discussed the draft budget proposals in a joint scrutiny committee, but are we able to bring it to back to scrutiny ourselves, or would we have to comment on it as individuals?
The director will come in on that, Chair.
Thank you.
Hello, Chair. So there are no plans to bring the draft budget proposals into individual scrutiny. So you'll recall that we added the opportunity for joint scrutiny on for certain items, and in particular the budget, I guess, would have been one of those that would be top of the list. So that there are no proposals to bring individual matters back into scrutiny committees, and in any event, the timeline is such that I think the budget consultation closes middle of next week, and then it's something like the 24th of next month for a cabinet and full council. Obviously, again, where all members get to comment on the budget. So my advice would be is to respond to the consultation individually. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It was a question that was posed to me, so thank you very much indeed. Can I ask, Mark, have there been any reports brought forward at all?
No, none of those cabinet reports were brought forward for this evening's committee, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll move to agenda item 7, and that's the Welsh in Education Strategic Plan. Can I ask Carol Andrews, Cabinet Member for Education and Communities, to introduce this report, please?
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. The purpose of this report is to inform members of the progress made in the annual report 2024 to 25 and the Welsh Government evaluation response. The report identifies positive progress towards the target for the local authority of 26% of Year 1 learners to be in Welsh medium education by 2032. You'll see in the report there are 7 main achievements outlined, which are, as you've already mentioned, the youth service, developing and embedding a new curriculum, developing Welsh language and an awareness of Welsh culture. And this has been positively received by the young people. The number of Flying Start funded placements available has been significantly increased in Welsh medium childcare. The co-produced development of 2 animations to show families about the availability of provision in the community. I knew I was going to get this wrong. The centre has enabled, I'm still learning Welsh and my confidence isn't that brilliant. So this has enabled learners to move from English medium to Welsh medium education successfully, and the report includes a case study that illustrates a success story. The capital programme has successfully completed sustainable communities for learning schemes at several Welsh medium sites around the borough, and the development of ALN resources in Welsh. There's been extremely strong examples of collaboration and sharing practice from both within the local authority and from outside. However, as we have seen from other reports, there is a fall in birth rate which is impacting on surplus spaces, budgets, sustainability and enrolment in Welsh medium education. So the recommendation in 3.1 asks members to note the information contained within this report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We had a few questions on the pre-meeting, so I'll call on Councillor Mansell-Powell first, please.
Okay, thank you for that, Chair. It was the numbers, page 53, 5.3, page 23, outcome 1, further increase the number of Welsh medium Flying Start childcare placements available to meet the demands of Phase 3 expansion. I understood that. When I looked at the numbers further down, 23-24, they were 371. I'm not sure, correct me if I was wrong with the numbers. And 24-25, they were 406. Then it does say there was a drop there, an expected drop to unverified data for September 25 to 333. And that's unsubstantiated at the moment. I was just wondering how that reduction in numbers would impact on the overall plan moving forward. That was the first question I had. And I was just wondering, is there any work going on to identify the future trends, obviously birth rates? So from a forward plan, how will we actually looking moving forward with the expected or increase?
Shall I come in there, Chair?
Yes, please. Thank you, Sarah.
So Flying Start has gone through a large expansion, phase 2, and we're now starting phase 3. Part of that has led to having to develop a lot more Welsh medium. Part of the expansion is around developing Welsh medium Cylchmaethrin places. So we have had to develop a lot more. We've also had the capital programme to develop the nursery provision. However, with the expansion, what we found is some parents have chosen English medium. And what we've tried to do now is develop those videos to do some targeted marketing around making sure that parents understand their choices. Sometimes they go to the most local rather than deciding what provision. And what we're finding with Canolfan Gwenllian, the immersion centre, is that parents are then choosing in year 3, year 4, year 5, whereas maybe they would have chosen before they started in Flying Start or in nursery. And that might be a smoother journey for the child to go with their peers rather than changing school provision later on. So it is about promoting so that parents can make informed choices, if that makes sense. And we are hopeful that that will make a difference and increase the numbers, but we are worried about the surplus places.
Okay. Yep, that's great. That's the only other follow-up I had was on the conclusion 5.5. There's been a positive progress made in the last year of Welsh Education Strategic Plan towards a 10-year target. I thought that maybe then that the reduction in potential future numbers may have been added at that point, although it was added further down on page 79. It was just a conclusion, didn't highlight the reduction in numbers expected for September 25. There was just an observation, that one.
Yeah, the challenge for us is we have to, so Welsh Government are very clear on the data that we report on, and it's the PLASC data. So it's almost a year out of date because we have to submit our reports on the 31st of July every year based on the February PLASC data. So that data will come through now in February next month, and then we'll be reporting on that in July this year. So we're almost a cycle out of date because it's an academic year, September to July. But it's acknowledging that we've got this dip coming. So it's a concern. What we are looking at is what our reception rates are doing, and they seem to be holding. So there's something happening around nursery, and it might have been the disruption of all the works happening that has caused the dip. So we're not quite sure why and what's happened there, but we're looking at it and exploring it in more depth.
Okay, that's great. The only other question I had was when would you have the data, but you did cover that in your response, so that's great. That is, thanks very much.
Thank you. And can I ask for Councillor Anne Broughton-Pettit now? You have a question from the pre-meeting. Sorry, I couldn't unmute. Looking at the figures on page 55 for the English medium schools, the number of children who are studying GCSE Welsh, a lot of the schools there don't have any figures, but I'm a school governor for St Martin's, so I know that they are studying GCSE and A-level. And I think it is compulsory for them to study GCSE. Is that right? So these figures are not correct. And if this is going out to the public, then it is giving the wrong impression.
We are reliant on, this was new data that was submitted for this annual report in July 2025. And I suppose not all the schools had chance to come back to me with that data in time for that submission. So you've got the report that was submitted on the 31st of July. What we are doing though is I'm still collecting data in from the schools. So Mr. Jarvis has sent me his data, although I haven't got A-level data off him. So I will chase that up if he's doing A-levels in Welsh second language as well. Okay. But I've only got his GCSE data now. But what we're trying to do is before we do all the correct updates for the data page on our council website, we're making sure that it's complete. So there is a little bit more chasing because there's still a few schools remaining outstanding. But I have had more in since. But it is a new data set, in fairness to them.
Yeah. And it is compulsory, isn't it?
Yes.
For them to do GCSE at least in Welsh.
Yes, absolutely. And that's part of the push for Welsh Government requesting this data is to see what schools are teaching, how many learners are coming through, how many are going in for the exams, and continuing that study at GCSE level. Because Welsh Government want to see how wide the Welsh language is being taught. It's all about that 1 million speakers by 2050.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. And at the pre-meeting, we also have a question from Mrs. Pamela Ireland.
Hello. I prefaced this yesterday with an apology because I haven't been to meetings for a while due to various issues. But I've got two questions. The first is the thing that I'm not sure you may have covered already, so apologies if you have. It's mentioned in the report that eSGOL has been piloted in Ysgol Gyfun Cymru, and I just wondered if that had been explained to members, and if not, could we have an explanation or be directed to where we can find it? And the second question was about recruitment of Welsh-speaking educators and how is that going? And it says on page 81, that there are concerns and there are discussions with Welsh Government. And I was just wondering what sort of form that comes in. Is it that you're reporting to the Welsh Government about the recruitment of Welsh speaking educators or educators that are learning Welsh, or is it that the government are coming back to us with their expectations? Just wondered what that actually meant. Thank you.
So the first part, eSchool, is, I suppose, a virtual teaching tool. So you buy into a course, it's taught online. You can have groups of students coming together from across a bigger patch. I would say it's mixed reviews at the moment from Caerphilly school perspective. It could be very good, but it's something that we're exploring. We're not completely, so this is why it's in pilot phase at the moment, to look at what the implications are around budgets and take up, etc., and what the students feel. Sometimes they don't want to go back to being online. So it's I suppose it's a balancing. It could give a broader range of subjects, which is why we're exploring it. The second part around the recruitment, I think nationally, Welsh Government have realised recruitment of Welsh-speaking staff is really tricky. They are now exploring what's called a CEFA, which is basically like a language descriptor that is actually internationally accepted. So it's a European framework of reference for language. And what that will do is give really clear descriptors over your confidence. Some staff will say, oh, I can't speak Welsh, and then can speak it quite confidently, but don't want to be a translator. So it's more a case of how confident staff feel. This is being looked at. So it's being taken forward on a national platform to make sure that the surveys are more complete. At the moment, they use what's called the SWAC, which is, again, a national survey of the workforce through the Education Workforce Council. And so we've got that as a data set, but it's only as good as the completion of it. And staff are maybe not, sometimes they're oversaying and saying, yes, of course, I'm a really confident Welsh speaker, and maybe they're not confident enough to teach in Welsh. Or maybe they're saying, oh, no, I can't do that. But actually, they are a very fluent, confident speaker, but maybe not in a formal setting. So I think the CEFA will actually help us in years to come around staff ability. And what it does is give you a continuum framework. So if you know what level that you're working at, and this is something HR is looking at here, and workforce development, you can look at what's the next stage for that continuum of being able to speak Welsh. So it's about giving people confidence, but across not just speaking, reading, writing, and whether it's formal skills. So translators go right up the levels. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
That was lovely. Thank you, Sarah. Could I ask just a little add-on to the eSchool? It does say it's only piloting one subject at the moment. Could you let us know what subject that is?
That's a test, isn't it? I'm trying to think what Lee said. I want to say something like customer service, but I could have got that completely wrong. I'd have to check with Matt in Mr. Webb in Cymrumney on which subject. I might have got that one wrong. I'll go and check with him.
No problem at all. Thank you. Councillor Steve Skivens, please.
Thanks, Chair. I've got two questions. First one, page 30, the Learner Travel Wales Measure 2008. There's a very brief description of an impact assessment there. It does raise some concerns that there's a disproportionate impact on Welsh language learners and potentially faith schools as well, if any changes are made to school travel arrangements. So the question there is where are we now with our situation? Because this appears to be recognition of a matter that was raised elsewhere. And my second question is page 33. I note the positive comments of the use of libraries as Welsh learning locations. So, where are we now with this situation where potential closure of libraries? Thank you.
Have we an officer to answer?
Shall I answer from a school transport perspective? At the moment, there are no plans, but this was about concerns raised in the Welsh Education Forum by the wider group when there was a consultation out. So at the moment, we've put it in there as a potential concern, but because that was raised by the Welsh Education Forum members. We are involved and we're a consultee as a group for any impact assessments and any consultations that come out. So that's about capturing members' views as well. At the moment, there's no change, so we're carrying on. From a use of libraries, we have quite a lot of libraries that we work closely with already. As far as the rest of the provision goes on, shall I pass over to you, Sue?
Just to update on the libraries, there's a JR, subject to a JR, but at the moment, the decision on libraries is paused until we get the outcome of that JR.
Oh, okay. If I could just come back in, Chair, I think you thank the officers for the response, but I think it does show that there could be a disproportionate effect on Welsh language learning with both of those queries if there were any future changes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Skibbons. Councillor Elizabeth Davis.
Sorry, mine are not questions. They're just clarifications, really. With Anne's comment about the Welsh education compulsory GCSE level, the response was that they were checking how many children actually took the exam. I thought if it was compulsory, you had to take it. Does that mean that children are opting not to take an exam that's compulsory? Because
I think all learners are encouraged to take the exam, but you do have some learners that will drop out for absence or whatever other reason. Sometimes they don't sit an exam. So it's not that you can't force learners to take any exam. They could drop out of any GCSE. What we're looking at is seeing very good take-up rates. So even with sickness, absences, etc., so you've got 94, 96% for a lot of the schools are sitting the exams, which is good.
So that's throughout the whole. Is that throughout the whole of Caerphilly then? 94, 96%?
I think if you look at the schools, I've got an updated schools list now, but I'm looking at a range between 90 and 96% that are taking it.
Okay.
So they're quite high rates, really, that I'm seeing coming through.
Lovely. That's I did have another question, but I forgot. Well, it was another question. It was another clarification, but that's fine. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Councillor Mansell-Powell, please.
Sorry, Chair, another one for you with this one. Pamela Iden mentioned earlier on about recruitment issues. Do we actually know how many fluent Welsh speakers we have in the schools at the moment, and are the patterns consistent across the whole of Caerphilly? I know from my own experience in Idris Davis, the numbers are quite low. So I'm just wondering, what the full pattern looked like on how many staff are actually fully bilingual.
I think it's a really difficult question to answer, because you'd have to look at each individual school and also how staff identify themselves. So that's the challenge that I wouldn't be confident in giving a figure for. What we're trying to do is the secondaries are all working very closely together to support each other to improve the language. And obviously there's sabbaticals and there are courses, and the new Centre for Welsh Learning is really, really supportive of our schools to increase the numbers. Even in primaries, they're looking at doing projects and really looking at tailoring the training that is given to staff. But I think it's about how do we make sure moving forward that how we identify this, how staff identify themselves is really, really clear and can be compared, because I think the fluency, the confidence, it is too subjective. So what we try to do now is looking at the CEFA, we will have a much better and a much clearer idea moving forward. Once it comes in, it might take 18 months to be established, but that's where we'll get better understanding of our Welsh speakers across the whole workforce.
Okay, thanks, Ashley. That's great.
Thank you. We had a written question from Mr. David Bassina. Would you like to read out your question here?
Sorry, Chair. I think my question's on the next item. So.
Oh, it certainly is.
On the
sorry,
CCTV.
it's on,
Sorry,
on
yeah.
CCTV.
Yeah.
Yes, my apology. Okay, so Councillor Elizabeth Davis, you still have your hand up?
Yeah, I know. I just wanted to come back in on the last comment. I'm sorry.
Yes,
I didn't realize we had a pre-meeting today, so I missed that, unfortunately. So I'm just catching up now, and I'm obviously quite new to the panel, so I'm just catching up on the things I don't understand. I'm just a little bit concerned. If we're giving secondary school teachers, and particularly secondary school teachers, then additional training to speak in Welsh, as well as what they're doing now, I'm concerned about the pressure we put on all staff on top of their already full load. So have we considered that, and how we're going to approach them having the time to do this as well as their other work? I think it's a good idea, but I don't know how practically it will work.
So I think what's happening at the moment is they are offered. So, for example, with a sabbatical, there are only 2 or 3 teachers across the whole of Caerphilly that will be able to go on to that sabbatical course. So actually the numbers are quite low, which is why the Cymraeg Cenedlaethol is trying to look at how can they tailor it differently. So it might be 2 hours after school, or it might be an afternoon, and they can do it in their non-contact time then. But I think it's working with different schools to do it in a much more flexible way. There's also a lot of online courses where people can do it and fit it into their working day without it impacting too much on extra workload. But it's voluntary. It's not that we're forcing anybody to do it. And a lot of people are, what we are finding is where they might have their children, young people, going through Welsh medium education. We have a lot of staff that are very interested in then also learning Welsh. So I think it's kind of working for us. We've got quite a lot of Welsh medium provision across Caerphilly Borough, and that's actually creating a bit of a culture of wanting to learn. Like earlier when we were talking about the youth service, they've taken this and created a whole curriculum around Welsh folklore, the tales, and actually it's more than learning the language, it's also learning about the culture of Wales and our stories and carrying on that legacy. And I think that's the exciting part that people are starting to connect with, young people and staff.
Chair, can I come in bang on there? Do you mind? Can I come in with a comment?
Oh, you can come in. Yes, you can come in.
Can I just, before I do, can I say hello, Sarah, and thank you very much for, and I mean it, for yourself and your staff, for what you do. But I'll move on. The comments that have just been made, and I'm going to make a comment now, which maybe some of you are thinking, what's he on about? It's not for now, but it's for the longer term. As da ni'n siarad ac yn trafod am y Gymraeg, if we're discussing and thinking about the Welsh language. But, you know, sometimes kindness towards the Welsh language, you don't have to do it through Welsh. Iawn? It's about mindset. It's about belonging. We're back to Cynefin. It's about all of that has just been said about where we are and who we are and where we want to go and how kind we want to be towards each other. All right? But that's about mindset, and that's not just done through the Welsh language. And I got concerns as well about everything else that's going on in our schools, and I don't want to overload anyone, but I would expect that those that want to do it will do it. Others will not do it, but some of the others, if they see it's the good thing, fine. If we go back to our pupils that we've got now, and here it comes. It's not, you know, we should be thinking as an authority now, officers, we should be thinking more about longer term. I will give you an example. You might think I'm daft. A few years ago, I picked up a grandson of mine who'd been sitting at GCSE, and he was a pupil, a very successful pupil at Ysgol Gyfun Cwm Rhymney, a school that I've got a lot to thank for, and a school that I think a lot about. I picked him up, this is a few years ago, I picked him after his exam, GCSE History. Iawn? Hanes. GCSE History. And I'm taking him home, and I go, how'd it go? All right, then. Oh, yeah, okay. 5 questions. Right? What was your Welsh history question? Didn't have one. Didn't have to answer one. Okay, Caerphilly?
Yeah.
Just leave it there. We're on about wanting these kids and others to take pride of place, to look at their history, to look at Cymraeg and Saesneg and any other language they care to pick up. And we want them to take up the stories and the culture and the tradition. We've got an old dialect around here called Gwentian that we don't introduce to any of our schools. Yeah, we've got other things as well to bear in mind. I asked the question, which, what was your Welsh history question? Don't have to answer it. Now that's a problem in itself. If we want our youth to have pride in their place, change that. Sorry, I'll shut up.
Well said, actually, John. So, sorry, Councillor Elizabeth Davies, you still have your hand up.
Yeah,
Would you like to come back in?
Yeah, I just wanted to come in quickly there because John hit the nail on the head for me. I am very concerned that the Welsh language seems to be very, very important, but we're not looking at the culture. We're not looking at the history, and I think that really is the vital part of it, that our children know about the Chartists, they know about Welsh mining, they know about those things, they know why people have pride in their valleys. And I think it's equally important to the language. When I was teaching, I used to teach the Gulpant dancing, and we loved it, and the children understood it, and we went all around the country dancing with children from all around Wales. And I feel that is extremely important. Maybe in some ways more important, knowing where you belong rather than actually having to speak the language, because for some children it's going to be very difficult. But the culture will not be so difficult. They will love it. And I know the children I was teaching then, they might or might not have been able to take a GCSE Welsh, but they certainly knew about the culture of Wales, and they certainly knew about, because I live in Oakdale, which is a mining village, and they certainly knew about the history of that village, because it was one of the first model villages. Well, it was the only model village to be built in the mining industry, and we did it inside out, and they loved it. And when they took the mine down, we went down and looked for fossils in amongst the ruins of the mine, and it was sad.
Wow.
So there we are. So it's not that this for me, the culture, the history, the way of being Welsh is the important thing. And when people say to me, you're not Welsh because you don't speak Welsh, I am offended, because I am Welsh. It's in my heart. It's who I am. I'm proud to be Welsh. But because I don't speak Welsh, it doesn't make me not Welsh. And I think we've got to get over that barrier as well. So thank you for this evening. I've really enjoyed this discussion. Thank you very much.
Smashing. And what the Youth Forum are doing at the moment with Cynefin is fantastic. So I'm really looking forward to that presentation. Could
I just add one more thing there to that aspect around that wider Welsh culture? Next year, Gwent is hosting the Urdd Eisteddfod down in towards Newport, and I think that will give us a really good platform to get all of our schools engaged in various Welsh cultural activities. And that it's very different to the curriculum. I can't change the curriculum, I can't change GCSEs, but what we can do is create that culture around it. So that we'll be working on.
Sorry, Sarah, I know you can't change curriculum, but there are head teachers around who might be able to help.
Yeah, thank you. And Stacey Kelsey, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to add there that the curriculum for Wales, we're in a really privileged position in Wales at the moment, that the curriculum for Wales provides that flexibility for us to reflect on our local culture and enabling the learning experiences that we offer to children are rooted in children's lived experiences and communities. So I just wanted to add there that we're in really, the teachers and the practitioners in our borough in a really privileged position if we're using curriculum for Wales at the moment. So that gives them the flexibility and the opportunity to run with this.
Lovely. Thank you very much for that. I just got a quick question for Sarah Much. Where will phase 3 expansion take place, or is it already, being implemented?
So Flying Start phase 3 started now from the beginning of January. We opened up for applications last September. We are now at 80% of the borough. So there's an awful lot of areas. It's actually easier to see how many areas are not online yet rather than the ones that are. But what we are doing now is there's a lot of partial community. So there's a part of Bedworth, there's parts of areas, which is a little bit more tricky. But we have updated the postcode checker, so people can check their postcode, can check where their 2-year-olds are, and can come to us as well if they get stuck.
Lovely. And regarding Ysgol y Lawnt, that we had big plans, didn't we? We're having a new school and new provisions and everything. But how is Ysgol y Lawnt managing at the moment?
So at the moment, they're very engaged and they're still delivering well. And in fact, their Cilch that's on site, their Cwtchalaunt, which does their wraparound provision, the leader of that setting, has just taken on provision up in Upper Rumney in my housing, my centre up there to deliver early education. So I think actually they are developing provision, which is really useful, not the school, but in conjunction with the school. So it works very nicely together.
Thank you very much for that. Right, I have a question now. It's regarding surplus places. I found it a little bit perplexing, actually, regarding surplus places. Why has the expansion of Ysgol y Castell generated 57.62 of surplus places? I know that the forecast for Ysgol Gynradd Caerphilly was just 3.86% surplus places. Was the expansion of a Castell to try and cope with any extra pupils that Ysgol Gynradd Caerphilly would have? Otherwise, I'm not quite sure why an expansion took place and that the school is less than half full.
I think looking at the data, there was almost skewed slightly because of the expansion of the nursery provision. So I think that's where you find 1 year data snapshot where they just open up all those places before they all come on board. And I think that's where you might see a difference now when we come to this financial year. However, one of the things that Welsh Government have asked us to do is to look at each different school, because different schools vary widely in what their surplus places was back in June, July last year. So what we're looking at is, for example, YGD Caerphilly had very little surplus places. So where are the parents going, from what's the catchments? And I think that's why we're looking at a much bigger project across the whole borough to look at what's the makeup of our schools, because I think it fluctuates from school to school to school. But we did do an awful lot of work expanding the provision at Ysgol y Castell.
Chair, can I come in on Ysgol y Castell?
Certainly.
Thank you. And just Ysgol y Castell, and I don't want to set school against school, but Ysgol y Castell with so many empty spaces, that's my question really, without trying to knock another school down like a skittle. Are we going to look at the catchment there? Would tweaking the catchment help improve the numbers? Can I carry on? Can I just ask? Up the road, you've got the Trecennydd area. What's the catchment for the Trecennydd area at the moment? Where do they go?
Do we have an officer to answer?
We're just checking on that information.
Lovely, thank you.
Chair, could I just say that Andrew's just checked and the surplus places now are down to 21%, 24%.
Right.
Okay. We can circulate that information to members, if that's okay.
I think it would, I think it would be helpful. So I really do. I think because on paper it looked a little bit concerning, and of course, I do understand that these figures come in July of the years of 25, so things can change quite drastically. And yes, certainly if we could have those circulated, I'd be happy.
So, Chair, where do the Trekenny kids go? Still waiting.
Councillor Roberts, are you able to give me an address in Trekenny? Can't search on that area. Do you know any particular addresses?
First Avenue, Second Avenue. I'm only thinking. I don't want to knock another school down, especially if it's one of my schools. But I'm just wondering if we're looking at surplus places, where some of those pupils go at the moment.
Councillor Roberts, we can look at the catchment for the schools in our area and we can circulate to you via email, if that's okay.
There you go. Thank you. That'll do me now. Diolch yn fawr. I don't want to knock school against school, no. But sometimes if you've got falling roles, it's an opportunity to look at the geography and to see, well, instead of some of these children having to go there, which is a longer distance, round the corner to there might make sense. Diolch.
Diolch, John. Okay, so if there are no further questions, recommendations are on page 20, 3.1, to note the progress made towards targets on the Welsh Strategic Plan. We've discussed that today, so there'll be no vote on that. So thank you very much for all your contributions.
Chair,
agenda item.
Sorry, Chair,
yes?
I've just identified the address that Councillor Roberts was referring to. And
yes.
It's the catchment area of Ysgol Ifo Bach.
There you go.
Lovely. Diolch. Thank you. So we'll move on to agenda item 8, condition of school buildings and CCT usage in schools. Now, I'd like to call on the Cabinet Member for Education and Communities, Councillor Carol Andrews, to introduce this annual report.
Thank you, Chair. So the purpose of this report is to update members in respect to the current condition of the school estate across the borough and provide an update on CCTV usage in schools. Welsh Government requires local authorities to maintain up-to-date information on the condition of their school buildings. This is linked to the Sustainable Communities for Learning programme and the Net Zero Carbon Route Map surveys. Condition surveys are undertaken over a 5-year cycle across the school portfolio in this authority and are utilised to support decision-making when allocating funding for capital maintenance works. The most recent surveys were undertaken at the end of 2023 and 2024. This authority has allocated £1.4 million in capital maintenance funding for schools every financial year to support maintenance works to be undertaken across the school portfolio. Welsh Government have provided annual allocations of capital grant funding in varying amounts to support essential repairs and maintenance of schools. However, this level of funding from Welsh Government is not guaranteed on an annual basis. There have been national concerns regarding school security and the use of certain types of CCTV, which have been linked to potential cybersecurity risks and human rights. The Welsh Government have therefore initiated reviews of existing CCTV infrastructure. Estyn inspections in our schools have placed significant emphasis on physical security measures, for example, fencing and access points, and there have been recommendations to invest and implement improvements. The use of CCTV is seen as a reactive measure and has not been a primary focus of Estyn's recommendations. With this in mind, the School Strategy Board has approved the reallocation of capital funding for CCTV to implement the improvements of site security as recommended by Estyn. Head teachers have been consulted in relation to this proposal and have acknowledged the importance of site security as a preventative tool as per Estyn's recommendations. The recommendation in 3.1 asks members to note the information contained in this report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. On the pre-meeting, we had a question from Councillor Mansell Powell, please.
Actually, Chair, I think there was a question from Councillor Anne Broughton-Pettit and then from Mr. Bazina.
Okay, Councillor Anne Broughton-Pettit, please.
Okay. In the section, the conclusion, It says that the commitment to prioritising proactive security measures in line with Estin's recommendations that deliver greater impact in safeguarding our schools. But what are the proactive security measures that they use instead of CCTV?
Chair, can I answer?
Yes, certainly.
The preventative
Thank you,
measures.
Andrew.
Preventative measures we're actually using are based on the Estin recommendations, and we're looking at site security, particularly in relation to the introduction now of Martin's Law going forward. So it's making sure that the school sites are secure, so our access points are secure, so investment in things like push pads and intercoms, so that we can make sure that if anybody comes to the school gate, the site is secure and only people who are expected on school site are allowed in. And as I said, along with that is the security measures, so i.e. fencing, etc.
Right. Can I just ask something else? Some of the schools, though, especially the secondary schools, I think they use the CCTV for pupils' behaviour as well. So they would be losing the ability to do that, wouldn't they, if they don't have CCTV?
Chair, am I okay to answer that one?
Of course you are. Thank you, Mrs. West.
We're not proposing the removal of CCT provision on school sites. That will remain. However, if schools wish to update or enhance the provision, the actual implication will be down to the schools to actually find the funding. As I said, we are securing the priority in relation to site security.
Right, okay, thank you.
Lovely. So, Mr. David Bassina, please.
Thank you, Chair. It's really following on from that last sort of point, and just to really, from my perspective, in terms of talking about primary schools, as primary school governor, endorsing the sort of proposals under 2.23 and 5.4.8, and I welcome the proposal to actually reallocate capital funding from CCTV to more physical sort of security measures on site. I guess my question is do we have any indication of what sort of additional funding that will make available, and what the process will be for schools to actually draw down on those allocations?
Sorry, there was a amount of money off the top of my head, I haven't got that figure, that was actually allocated for CCT provision, which has now been identified for use in relation to site security. We have regular meetings with regards to any Estin concerns that come to light as a result of any Estin inspections or other things that are brought to light in that way. And on an annual basis, schools are able to make capital bids to us for any provision that they feel appropriate. That said, if anything comes to light in year, as long as we've got budget still available within our budget allocation, then obviously we can actually look at those and view as to whether or not we give them priority.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor John Roberts.
Thank you, Chair. Diolch yn fawr. I'm quite prepared to wait because I wasn't at the pre-meeting. So if there's anybody that was at the pre-meeting that wants to go first, I'll wait. But if it's my turn, then it's my turn.
It's your turn, John.
Diolch yn fawr. People are going to be fed up with me. Well, they're fed up with me anyway. However, thank you for this. I'm glad it's come. I think I asked for it at the butt end of 2023. But it's here. And some people might not think it's up to much, but I do. I think it's important. I think it's important that we know where we are and how we're going to move on and different things. One of the things that I was glad about was I read, and it said that there were 6 police requests to draw down data, 6 in 2 years. Now, to me, that's a lot better than 66 or 266. That's good, you know? And I now, because of this, I know this. So if anybody asks me as a governor or a councillor or a resident, I can put their mind at ease, because we don't live in the Bronx, but times are changing, you know. And I was glad. I'm glad of that. That's a low figure, and it's to be welcomed, you know. Da iawn. On the other hand, I'm aware that maybe in the last year and a bit, I think we've had 2 lockdowns in comps, which are worrying. you know, and that's where CCTV comes in. CCTV shouldn't replace anything else and doesn't replace anything else. It's a complementary tool. You use it with other things. Estins say that it's a reactive thing. It's not. Well, it is, but if you do it properly, if you do it tidy, do it properly, it is a proactive tool that you use. Lots of schools use it, especially comps. You know, it helps with site security, doesn't it? It helps with pupil and staff safety. It might be a good tool if there's, God help us, but if there's lockdown and we want to check on evacuation procedures. So some schools might need this more than others. It's not just evacuation procedures these days, is there? If there's a lockdown, you've got in evacuation, you know, where you find a part of the school. And this is where CCTVs really comes in. It's been used as well in some schools as a countermeasure for looking at bullying. But if it's done properly, it is a proactive tool. Anyway, I asked for it in 223, it's come along. I read on page 86 of the papers, it said a CCTV working group was formed in January 2024. Can I ask, first question, I don't need the names, I just want to know really, who's on that CCTV working group that was formed in January 2024?
Certainly, Chair, am I able to answer? Yes.
Yes.
There's representation from Sustainable Communities for Learning. There was representation from our health and safety team. We had representation from insurance, just to make sure from an insurance perspective that we were compliant. We had representation from Carl Evans, who is in the policy team in relation to what's Carl's title? Sorry, at the top of my head. Information governance. We had built a consultancy. There was a wide variety of relevant teams and officers that were felt appropriate in order to make sure that we were capturing everybody's sort of views.
I think so, and I think good. Thank you for that. That's a well-rounded committee, isn't it? Bringing in experience from all over the shop, which is really good. I'm not comfortable, personally speaking, I'm not comfortable with allocating money out of CCTV. I see the importance of the other, really do. But I'm not, personally speaking, I'm not comfortable with withdrawing money out of CCTV because, maybe I'm wrong, but I do believe that we've got a few schools out there whose CCTV isn't up to scratch as it is. I don't want us as an authority, do not want us as an authority to be that behind with this kind of thing in the same way, really, and no blame attached to anyone now, but I don't want us to be in a position with CCTVs the way that we are, for instance, with rights of way issues, because we have a backlog in some things. If we're going to withdraw money to put to something else, you know, we're taking money from one hole and we're filling it into another hole. I'm not comfortable with that. I would rather see the money for CCTV being ring-fenced for that purpose, and us maybe pie in the sky, but finding other monies. You know, I'm not comfortable with that. It's okay now. You know, as I've just said, we don't live in the Bronx, but I also said as well, and we're all aware of it, members, things are changing. You know, and we don't know, do we? But I don't want to scaremonger. It's not that. It's a case of preparing now for later on down the road. You know, there's a short-term issue and there's a long-term view, and and that's my concern, and that's why I asked for this as a report, because when we get a report, we can read it, we can ask questions, as we're doing now. It was suggested to me in December, would I accept it as an information piece? And having waited 3 years, I think I was a bit miffed on that, to be honest with you, because it's an issue. When we get a report, we can read it, we can ask questions on it, we can make notes, And you never know, we might be able to return in a couple of years about it. I'm not going to say any more. I'll leave it there just to say, personally speaking, I'm not comfortable with taking money out of something that we haven't caught up with already. If we were up to speed with everything, I wouldn't mind so much. But I don't think that we are up to speed with everything. And all we're doing now is making that big hole bigger and bigger. And, you know, that doesn't make sense to me at all. Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you, Councillor John Roberts. Councillor Marina Shackland-Dawson, please.
Chair, am I able to respond in relation to...
You are, yes.
Thank you.
Certainly.
The reason for the delay in actually producing this report, obviously, and I did speak to Councillor Roberts a couple of times to explain on the phone. The reason for the delay was when we had the advice from central government in relation to the Hikvision cameras, we were asked to stop any installation of CCTV for that time. So it gave us an opportunity, along with a request from Welsh Government, to establish the working group in order that we can actually make an informed decision. And it has taken some time, obviously, to collate all the information, to seek views, etc. So that's the reason really why this report has been delayed the way it has. And in relation to Councillor Roberts' concerns regarding the installation of CCTV, as we said in the report, there's nothing stopping schools carrying on to do that if they so wish. However, at this present time, we have to reallocate the funding to site security because that has been given our priority.
Can I just come in once? Thank you, Chair.
Yes.
I'll be quiet then. Thank you, Andrea. I appreciate all that you've said. Regarding what you've just said about schools, okay, but not that we know it all, we don't. But lots of us sit on schools, and lots of us know what school budgets are like now, and we know what school budgets are going to be like in a couple of years. To turn round and to say that schools can spend more on CCTV now if they so wish, you know that they're all going to go, bananas, go away, don't you? Because they've got a budget to maintain. They've got money to find at the moment. Just pushing it onto the schools and say, well, use your own money when they haven't got enough money on it. That's no answer. I'm sorry, that is just not an answer. But I'm grateful for everything else that you've said.
Thank you. Can I just come in on something as well, Andrea? Can I ask, do we in CCBC have any schools using Hikvision equipment?
There are some schools with regards have cameras that are Hikvision, but what we've said is that we will not be installing any further cameras to match those. So if they have Hikvision cameras and they need updates, they would have to replace all the cameras. They can't replace some. So it would be actually proposed that the Hikvision cameras would be phased out gradually.
Right, okay. Is there still a concern over safety and safeguarding with these this Hikvision equipment?
The central government feel that there isn't any sort of overdue concern in relation to school usage, because they feel that the level of data that's going to be produced by those cameras wouldn't be something that the manufacturers would be interested in.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Councillor Marina Shackland-Dawson, please. Oh, sorry, would Robert Hartshorn like to come in?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Sorry, it was just to follow up on 2 points. So one is that whilst there may be some Hikvision cameras in some of our schools, there is a technical separation from the rest of our systems. So that deals with, if you like, I don't understand the technical solution, but it means that there is a barrier. So the concern is around cybersecurity and access to the rest of our systems. And we do have technical solutions in place that actually mean that we don't need to remove the existing cameras. So that's why we're okay as is, but we wouldn't install and we wouldn't support installation of cameras such as new cameras such as Hikvision cameras. I just felt that I had to come back as well, if it's okay, on Councillor Roberts' further comments around, it's just to be clear, this isn't a question of us pushing something onto schools. It's just a direction of travel. Councillor Roberts, you mentioned that things change, and the advice that Estin have from counter-terrorism policing, the advice that Estin therefore are including within their inspections as they're advising schools is moving away from CCTV, and we're responding to that. So we're deprioritising CCTV as a protective measure, and as Andrea's outlined, is prioritising therefore other physical measures, and it's just a direction of travel. If at some point things change, then I guess that we might review and we might change again. And I think the other thing to recognise as well when you're talking about costs and costs on schools is that whilst we're talking here about a capital pot of money, CCTV comes with annual revenue costs. So in terms of monitoring and maintenance and servicing and repairs and replacement, etc. So so we're mindful of that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Marina Shackle-Dawson, please.
Okay, thank you. Right. Can you answer why have Estin recommended the fencing, etc., rather than the cameras, considering 2 lockdowns that have happened are from threats within the school, not outside the school coming in, but within the school from pupil behaviour. So why have they recommended this?
Kerry, do you want to answer in relation to Estin's view, please?
Yeah, so to be clear, Estin don't comment, specifically in that way. They very much focus on site security because it's around the safeguarding agenda. So it's very much aligned to Martin's Law and the measures and changes we expect to see. We actually had a meeting today to review Estin's site concerns, making really good progress on schools where things were picked up. We monitor that termly. And one of the things that we discussed today was how well prepared Caerphilly is for the coming in of Martin's Law. It's a major change, but our schools have all demonstrated a confidence around practicing lockdown procedures and so on and so forth.
Good.
Estin are concerned that children are safe in school, and there have been occasions where there are no barriers between strangers coming onto a site and being able to encounter a child without any barriers at all. They talk about in the tragedy in Dunblane, how quickly a stranger was able to get inside a building. Now, the stranger could still have got inside a building eventually, but it buys valuable time for schools to be able to contact police, make it more difficult. So the emphasis from Estin is on site security, and it being impossible to get near a child without a series of barriers. So nothing is foolproof. We always say that, don't we? But it's creating those layers of safety and those barriers. I hope I represented our emergency planning colleagues adequately there. But that's the emphasis. Make it tough for people to get near children in the school. You can't eradicate it completely, but certainly our focus is on controlled access to sites. We had discussions today about, talk me through that. How hard is it to get near a child in that school? We'll look at height of fencing, so there's stuff like that. And Estin very much moderate that for us because it helps us to find a sensible threshold, because we couldn't possibly do everything we wanted to do in one go. We wouldn't have the resource and we wouldn't have the staffing. But it's given us a sense of prioritisation.
Can I ask one more question? Because I was walking past Fleur-de-Lis School and noticed how low the fence was. Will you be recommending to schools that they change their fencing, or will you wait till they apply for the fencing?
So a little bit of both, because some of this is subjective, and different governing bodies will have different attitudes towards some of this. But when we pick up on something that we're all sure about, so controlled access is a good example. We all believe there are certain constraints around school access. So we've screened all our schools and we now have a list of schools where we're going to prioritise that work. We would certainly, you know, every school has an SLA with health and safety where they review this together. So, you know, all our health and safety officers will be aware of the school site. They'll know it very well, and they'll be able to prioritise again through us, because we've got a pot of money and we have to be very careful how we allocate that money in a fair and consistent way. But there will always be times when schools will identify other things or just want that to be even safer, or they might have a particular issue with a particular you know, they might have a lot of vandalism, or every school will be different, and will work with the governing body to identify their priorities as part of their budget.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, can I come in there and ask Kerry a question?
Okay, John, yes.
I did say I was going to shut up, didn't I?
I should have stayed on my back camera.
Can't get Kerry, be quiet now. Just to go back on that, and I agree with what you said, or lots of it. I still think the CCTV is a good complementary aid, right? Not to replace, not to replace everything else, but to be on top of, as is the ideal scenario. But I'm not on about that now. You mentioned every school and security. Are we still in the position where schools can buy a package of having days and hours with a health and safety officer? And are we still, here it comes, are we still in the position where they've got option 1 or option 2 regarding cost?
Not sure, premium or core. I'm not sure about that, because the world might have moved on. I believe so, yes. But to be honest, if they're accessing the core, that should cover all of this work.
Okay. That's a concern of mine that I've had for a while, is the fact that schools are given the option of, if you like, option 1 or option 2, and with option 2 they get a few more days or a few more hours. And I'm concerned about that we're doing that as an authority. I'd very much like it if every school signed up to the same thing, even if it means pie in the sky, here we go. Even if it means that every school paid for, like, say, one option, and the authority maybe tried for a year or 2, you know, giving them the extra as a little trial for 2 years to see how it goes. Because the idea of, I know that we all buy in and we do our own shopping as a school. We decide we want more tea than sugar, they want more coffee than tea, according to the budget and what we want and how we're going to spend it. But I'm not comfortable with the idea of some schools buying into more than the others when it comes to this. I know they're all getting the same, but I'd be more comfortable if they could all get the extra, if you know what I mean. And if ever we're in a possibility to like offer them all the extra, even if it's just for a trial period for a year to see how it goes, maybe. But there we are, as I said, pie in the sky.
I'll just come back on a couple of those. I mean, first of all, I'm not 100% sure that's still in operation, so I'm working on the basis that it probably is. Within that, though, you know, as a head teacher, the core is enough to keep the school safe.
Okay.
I think certain head teachers have got certain difficulties with their sites and they feel better about having that extra, but I could be wrong on that, so let me check. But what I would say is, a couple of years ago, to reassure you, a couple of years ago, I'm sure Andrea will remember, I'm going back a bit, we had a problem with the uptake from secondaries because they had, in those days, caretaker teams, they'd all trained up. You know, secondary schools didn't feel the need to engage in a health and safety level of support. We actually, and it was at a time where we were having some difficulties with health and safety. We had a few problems with Legionella and a couple of things like that. And we didn't want to take that risk of a lack of engagement. So for at least, it might have been up to 2 years, at least 1 year, we paid for that health and safety SLA to get secondary schools on board and to see the benefits of that, because we were concerned. And that worked.
Thank you.
Right? So your idea does work.
I think that's why I suggested it this time round as well.
Yeah.
But diolch.
Lovely. Oh, and thank you for your patience, Councillor Aldworth. I'll call you in now. Thanks.
Oh, thank you, Chair. No, it's really interesting stuff. Health and safety inside and outside, I just want to query how we are inside the school. Thinking about that terrible incident where that young lady had a knife. What are we doing as regards checking bags? Have we employed that tactic within our schools? And also, the thing with fencing is important because we had an incident here in our ward where stuff had been tipped over a fence, undesirable items. So the fencing, are we thinking of the standard sort of 6'6" stuff or more sort of security type fencing that is, I don't know how dangerous it can be, but it used to be barbed wire years ago. I don't think that's used anymore. But, we get stuff that deters pigeons. What kind of deterrent with fencing could we introduce? Thank you.
Yes, I'm taking this one.
Debbie? Yes, please.
So, first of all, schools operate on a risk assessment basis, because what is a risk in one school is not a risk in another. And you can't cover every risk that you can ever think of, can you? Because we're working with human beings, little ones and big ones, and anything can happen at any time. What the emergency planning team will talk to us about is minimizing that risk and controlling that risk as far as possible. So it is the case that if there is a concern around the pupil, a risk assessment is done, and it will be the case that the school identify measures, as they did in that situation you just referred to there. They will identify measures to control that risk and minimize that risk, but it is still dependent upon people being consistent in applying those measures, isn't it? So point having a risk assessment that says we're going to search a child's bag every morning if they miss it one morning or whatever, or if parents are involved. So I would say the answer to that is it's all about the individual risk assessment. Okay, and it's about knowing pupils and linking with their families well. And I feel that our schools do that really well. They take it really seriously. They engage with health and safety staff and inclusion staff to do any form of risk assessment that they need to carry out. In terms of the fencing, there is a minimum height, and Andrea will know it, I'm sure, that we use now when we have new builds and when we're reviewing buildings. There's guidance on that. But again, there is some fencing in some schools that wouldn't be at that height. And that's about the review that the health and safety team will undertake, because some of that fencing, with a situation like this today, is inside the school perimeter fence. So you come through a tall fence or high fence, and then you encounter a not so high fence, but it's not the same because you had to get through the first fence first. You see what I mean? So this is hugely complex, and school sites are so different from one another. I think that's why, back to Councillor Roberts' point, it is really important to have that expert advice, because head teachers are head teachers. They're not experts in health and safety. They seek that reassurance that they get from people who can offer that expertise. That's why we're very lucky in this authority to be able to call on that expertise so easily. So I think, does that answer points raised?
Yeah, that's okay. Thank you very much, Gary.
Well, there doesn't seem to be any other hands up, but I have a question here. I note that all the condition surveys were actually completed by the end of 2024. But we have two schools, both primary, at category C. But we're unable to see if they were P1 or P2 or P3, as all the surveys were done in 2024. So I'm unsure whether any of the work has been completed to bring them up to an acceptable standard. And that was Abercarn Primary had its review in October 24 and Vochrau Primary in February 24.
Chair, any works identified in priority 1 are works that need to be done immediately. And if they're under the threshold of 10,000, which is from our capital investment point of view, if the onus would be on the school to rectify those, and a list has been sent to all the schools, and we're monitoring to make sure that that work has been undertaken.
Okay, so at the moment you haven't had that information whether the work has been done up to
We've emailed all the schools to ask for the work to be undertaken, and one of my team at the moment is working to compile the list to check it off, just to make sure that we are satisfied that all that information has been identified and rectified.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Okay, so right, if there's no more hands, we'll go to recommendations on page 84. Members are asked to note the information contained in the report, and that's what we have done this evening. So thank you very much for that. We'll move on to agenda item 9, establishment of a Sustainable Communities for Learning Working Group. To introduce this is Councillor Carol Andrews.
Thank you, Chair. So the purpose of this report is to update members following their request to establish a working group on the 25th of November 2025. The Council has a statutory duty to deliver a sustainable strategy for education in Caerphilly that is underpinned by robust models and delivers the right education in the right place with the best outcomes for learners. With a decline in birth rate meaning there are significantly fewer children entering the primary school system and surplus places across many schools, it is essential to maximise the impact of school spending and also be aware of the impact of reducing pupil numbers in our primary schools. The proposed working group will review primary provision across the authority in light of the decline in numbers, the increasing surplus spaces and financial pressures in a structured, evidence-based review of primary schools across the borough, applying agreed criteria to evaluate options and formulate recommendations for future school reorganisation. Its work will focus on optimising the use of physical assets and resources to ensure sustainable, high-quality learning environments and improved learner outcomes. A draft terms of reference for the working group is attached to the report. The Sustainable Communities for Learning programme is fundamentally linked to capital investment in schools as it directs significant funding towards improving educational infrastructure, and this is why a decision was taken to postpone any projects until this review is completed. The recommendations in 3.1 ask members to comment on the content of the draft terms of reference for the working group and to invite expressions of interest from Scrutiny for the nomination of 4 Scrutiny Committee members to serve on the Strategic Working Group, together with 2 ward members from each of the regions, so that's Caerphilly North, Caerphilly Basin and Caerphilly East, alongside head teachers and officers drawn from the School Strategy Board to ensure broad and balanced representation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If we can open that up to any questions. Councillor Liz Allworth.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm all for this. I think it's a great way forward. I didn't realise the birth rate was so poor. And understandably, yeah, we've got to really look at this and consider. So I'm all for this recommendation, Chair. I think it's great. I've read the terms of reference and I'm all for it. I think it's a good way forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Liz. And could I have Councillor Steve Skibbons, please?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just one observation. Some of the early reports showed under provision in some of the schools, but I don't think that can be taken out of context when we look at the development of the next local development plan, there are a huge number of candidate sites on there, and if a percentage of those is developed over the next 10 years, there will be an impact on our educational establishments, because the majority of them are aimed at family developments. So I agree with the fact that there should be a working group, but I think it needs to be broad brush in its approach and take into consideration the LDP. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Chair, am I able to come
yes,
back in on that?
Certainly, Andrea.
The projected numbers that we use for our schools actually take into account the next 10 years of candidate sites and sites that have been identified under the LDP. So we actually factor that growth into our projections for the next 10 years.
Thanks for that.
Thank you. There are no other hands up, so I'd like to say that the recommendations are on page 3.1, just as Councillor Andrews has said. But I'd like you to note that the expressions of interest should be made in response to an email to be sent out by our scrutiny officer, Mark Jakes. So that's if you're interested on working and being on this working group, you will have an email shortly. So please, can I have a mover?
I'll move
for this recommendation. Thank you.
Chair.
A seconder?
I'll second it.
Yeah, I'll second that, Chair.
Thank you very much. So we'll go to the vote then.
That's been carried unanimously, Chair, with 17 votes.
That's lovely. Thank you very much. Well, that brings us to the end of this evening, but I wish to thank all members and officers for their attendance and contributions this evening. And I wish you all in the chamber a safe journey home. And diolch yn fawr. Okay, so nos da.
Diolch yn fawr. Hwyl
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, everyone.